What is up, aka Padders? Welcome back to Top Cow Tuesday. Maybe you're new here because, we got some new traction for the channel. Top Cow Tuesday is my long-form study of Marc Silvestri's Top Cow Productions, the publishing house behind Darkness, Cyberforce, Witchblade, and a ton of other stuff. And right now, we're basically like a year and a half, maybe 8 months into Top Cow's publishing profile. What is Top Cow been up to, and what are they doing with Cyberforce? These issues I'm about to bring to you, an absolute revelation, because it's the Matrix, and it exposes, it highlights, it teaches us the full scope of what is possible with this title. It makes you frustrated that all these other reboots, I believe they had 4, maybe 5 reboots. It's insane. But none of these reboots touch on what I'm about to show you. Everything you're about to see, it's not perfect, but the ideas are rich. The execution is there. We got some incredible character design. We have cybernetic action. It's awesome. And so much of it is what would later people would just interject the Matrix into everything you're about to see. Now, we would say it's Philip K. Dick for anyone that is like pre-Matrix world, okay? So it's like the Matrix happens and all of Philip K. Dick's ideas get rolled into the Matrix, and the Matrix hits the culture, hits the lexicon, and takes over the conversation. But up until this point, Cyberforce is expanding, and not only into a superhero action book, but it's more of a psychological thriller. It's a superhero universe that is that exists within the mind, and we have villains that just seem unstoppable. And we have the little Timmy guy, little Timmy and Chip. There are like cyborg teenage boy, like friends of Cyberforce. But they're the ones that are like, they're kind of the audience analog a little bit. But there's like this prophecy emerging in these books, and they're kind of foreshadowing so much stuff with one of these characters. And we know it's going to come to a head, and it is nothing but exciting. And we're going to, like, as soon as we're done with the drawing table, I just want to tease what the next episode is going to be. Now, the next Top Cow Tuesday following this, I may have to pause because I do have to get some things together. But this is really, company-wise, Top Cow shifts. It changes. And it's within these pages. It's nothing contextualized in the story. I'm talking about the house ads. Everything that they're profiling, that they're previewing, is going to lead to the next phase of Top Cow Productions, which will be the Witchblade phase, and we're phasing out of Cyberforce this quickly. It's extremely important. I believe these issues, there's a little bit of a hubris to these issues, mostly because they promise so much. And nothing really cycles around, and it's a little bit of that frustration, but it's there, and it's so interesting seeing what happens in these issues I'm about to present to you versus the original 4-issue miniseries that launched Cyberforce. And the entire time I'm going through this, keep in mind, everything you're about to see was intended for Marvel Comics, and Marvel Comics could have had everything you're about to see in the X-Men universe. It's a hell of a good idea. It's a hell of a cool universe. Endless action. Characters that all fold into one another. Villains that are omnipresent, that seem completely invincible and grow in power per issue and per storyline. This is what solidifies serialized entertainment. And given it doesn't have to make perfect sense issue to issue. No monthly book quite does, but we do have to maintain continuity threads, and we have to try. Top Cow Productions is on all cylinders with a title that's essentially a rejected X-Men pitch. Let's go. aka Padders. Let me just grab some of this. This is this is some midday coffee. Last week we were supposed to drop everything I'm supposed to show you here. I did not like that video. Tried to shoot it again, didn't like it. Now this is all in what we would like to call the editing phase, or yeah, editing bay, which sounds cooler. We have to kind of showcase where Cyberforce came from, where it is at this time in its publishing history, and we're talking Cyberforce Volume 1, as you guys can see here. I got 3 nice piles for 3 separate reasons. But yeah, I tried to bring this to you guys, to all of my top Cal-ers, and it was an absolute failure. Like, I'm not even, there's no joke. This is a lot of info. So, it's like, we have to debate how do we lay down the info so that you, like anyone out there, if you got that Twitch, or you want to just go to eBay and start picking some of this stuff up, or you saw some of these in your local comic shop, you can make an investment in early Top Cow Productions, and you kind of know where things are. I feel like that's a lot of the missing commentary during this time. You cannot say that publishers at this time, we're talking to Image 7, we're talking the guys that brought us Pike, our mascot, and Crypt, our second mascot, to this table. The guys that created these characters, they like quickly had publishing catalogs, publishing libraries. So we would have the need of things like Cyberforce Origins Striker. There was 3 of these. Issue 1 highlights Cyblade. Issue 2 highlights Striker. And Issue 3 highlights Impact. We would get crossovers. And where we're going with this, we basically are running into Cyberforce, codename Strikeforce, opposing forces crossover. Killraiser, Ripclaw, 2 of the highlight characters. Killraiser gets a one-shot, Ripclaw gets a one-shot. I like this series so much, I bought it twice. And we get spin-offs. And we're kind of going backwards here. Codename Strikeforce. 14, 13, 12, 11, 9, and 10, right? 9 through 14. We wrapped this series up at 14. So just the idea, like the thought that publishers were lazy and not doing things and no one's writing. We have Killer Instinct chapters 1 and chapter 3, which went right into Cyberforce Volume 2. And that's where we're going to start. Cyberforce, I feel, had a lot of bad luck. Bad luck in just momentum. Because when you publish something like this, and you're Marc Silvestri, and you break away from Marvel Comics, you're no longer the X-Men guy, you're no longer the Marvel Comics guy, you break off and you take a risk. So you take a pitch, right? Cyberforce was an X-Men pitch, and Marvel said no to it. Which is kind of funny, because you would get characters just like Mother May I here. Like Mother May I could have been an X-Men. Velocity, right here, could have been an X-Men. Ripclaw could have been an X-Men. You guys get the picture? So you take a risk, and you form Image Comics, and you guys like do some damage. And you get a pretty decent Tin Soldiers, the Tin Men of War. I always want to say Tin Soldiers, the Tin Men of War. But you get a decent 4-issue miniseries. With a lot of ideas, with Psychotron here, like what great villains. Ballistic here, she's walking the line. We have a running gag with these where we all know Ballistic, former enemy. These are the shock troopers. But Ballistic kind of never joined Cyberforce, even though she's seen in a lot of the team shots and trading cards. So we have a running gag. When does Ballistic join Cyberforce? So you take a big risk. So you get your monthly book here. This is Cyberforce Volume 2 monthly. Ballistic becomes a focal point. And during this, we get thrown into a major crossover. So Cyberforce kind of like opens. And we have this prologue here. This is essentially a prologue to Killer Instinct. So your like first true issue 1 is linked to another company's characters and mythology and lore. Everything that they're trying to build. But some of it's shared. So Cyberforce doesn't quite get momentum. And then we get issues like 4, 5, and 6. And we highlight new characters like the Huntsmen here who are kind of bad guys, but they're good guys, but they're hunting down drug dealers. And we're getting into the history of some of the characters. So Ballistic here gets she was a baseball pitcher and she throws the ball too hard and the guys jump her and she ends up a cybernetic assassin. Okay? But we're getting, look, in this issue, the villainy of Mind Game. We're getting the monster of the week type stuff. We're getting new technology. These are like the super shocks. Like we got Felicity here just running around, looking good in the bikini, guys. Marc Silvestri knows how to draw the women. A little bit more in the history of Stryker. Mind Game here, like really, right? Like kind of H.R. Geiger looking stuff. Marc Silvestri is getting better and better with his poses. Guys, the contention on this channel is that Marc Silvestri eventually eclipses Jim Lee when it comes to artistry. He just does. But we get interrupted here. And I want to show you. Where is it? Here we go. So we get a little bit of a post crossover run here. Like 4, 5, and 6. But then we kind of get the wrap up. Some of the plot lines have to wait to get picked up. But essentially, Cyberforce uncovers a shock factory. They, I believe it's like black crack. But they discover a drug that the Huntsmen are trying to eradicate because it doesn't look good for their country. So we get these ideas, right? Like the villain, Cyberdata. Cyberdata is all around the world. Cyberforce is just covertly attacking and chipping away at everything Cyberdata is doing. But we can't continue that because we now have to do a promo. We have to do Image X over month. I made a grid here. These are the the good, the bad, and the ugly. Okay. So we have to stop everything so Todd McFarlane can come in and draw an issue. But this is a solid issue. And again, too, we have a good monster of the week. I think this guy's name is like Mindscape. But really cool villain. Like, he like gets like this girl sees him as like a true love, but this is what he looks like in the real world. Right? It's like really nice, really cool stuff. Again, monster of the week. And that's a lot of what we want in comics. But guess what? We're back to another crossover. Because 9, 10, 11, we're now dealing with Chris Claremont, a reunion, the guy from the X-Men. And he's using this character at the same time in Wildcats. So Marc Silvestri cannot escape his office obligations to Jim Lee and Homage Studios. So 9, 10, and 11, these are tough. I believe these expose Chris Claremont, right? Claremont or Claremont, but these expose Mr. Claremont here. They really do. This is a tough carry, okay? But we end with issue 11. And this is what I was saying in the intro. This is the great expansion. Because as you can see just from the cover, issue 11 has this idea. We're jacked into the Matrix, baby. So Cyberforce going all the way up until issue 15 here. We're going to explore this idea. Now, along the way, I just want to highlight, we do get a Cyberforce annual where we explore the origin of Velocity and her relationship with her sister and her mother, Mother May I, you guys remember her, with her sister, Ballistic. And they kind of have a real tender moment. But What we get a lot in this is where we end up with 11. Velocity here tries to reprogram one of her chips, and she gets this little kid here, Chip. But she's got a microchip in her head, and she's like, hey, I can be a better soldier. I can be a better teammate if you guys help me with my chip. And that's why I'm not allowed to do all these other things on these missions, which are highlighted. She doesn't have full control of her powers. It's easy to see a speedster character and not just say, why aren't they just like the Flash? Right? Like, what? We gotta give them a speed force or something. No. We're inside her mind as she's inside of the machine. And there's somewhat of a race against time. And all of Cyberforce needs to break into a facility and basically jack her into their equipment to fix her. And along the way, we get a wonderful fight. We get one of my favorites, Killjoy here, just getting nuked, getting zapped. So the idea that Cyberforce now can exist in and out of the real world, just like Neo does. It's here, and we're years ahead of the Matrix, by the way. If we were to go to an author where we get these ideas from, we have to go to Philip K. Dick. Philip K. Dick and William Gibson, Johnny Mnemonic. Another Keanu Reeves reference. These are the authors that were somewhat in the consciousness at the time. Remember, everyone drawing these books, they're into Aliens, Terminator 2, Judgment Day, Star Wars, RoboCop. This was the VHS stack that every single comic book artist had. See, we have Risky here. I'm Risky, and cyberspace is my domain. We see what's happening here with Velocity, right? She's just like becoming like a big girl, like her worst nightmare. She's very fat phobic. So this is a great expansion in two fronts. And we're going to do a great expansion episode coming up here on Top Cal Tuesday. We're expanding the reach of the story. We're going from just a straight up superhero adventure, superhero team adventure, superhero team dynamics. Again, a lot of the formula that was clear what was the X-Men formula at the time. So Cyberforce starts as that. They really start as an X-Men clone. And it takes them multiple crossovers over a year, 3 company crossovers to get to this point. And we get a little bit of a shade of that at the end of this really tough to read Huntsman X-Over. So we get Cyberforce 15, 14, 13. We have New Stain and regular for 13 and 12. So 12 through 15 is the great expansion. Also featured in the house ads, we will see a publishing profile that equals the great expansion. And here we go. I really have to say, I think Cyberforce issue 12, just from a history and the company standpoint, has become my favorite issue to date. We're going to flip through this real quick, everyone, but please appreciate the artwork. We have something very close to the Matrix. We have a Nebuchadnezzar-looking vessel that is flying through the guts of the lost world that we first are introduced to Nebuchadnezzar in. But some of these cyber data scientists, these guys here, and look at that awesome pose, right? Doesn't that look like William Hurt from Alien? But they come across a hologram, a cryptic message, and then we cut to Cyberforce, and they're dissecting, they're getting into the guts of this alien. And guys, this is some great design work here. But these alien dudes, these alien robots, they encountered them previously in Cyberforce. And one of them wakes up, becomes sentient. And Timmy, this is Chip, this is Timmy. Timmy's about controlling it. He somehow controls it. And he goes, thanks, Timmy. I guess it likes you. It's a machine like me. Again, very Matrix, because we know we're of the mind and we're of the real world equally. So we cut to Stryker and Velocity and Ripclaw. They break into another facility. And then we have this training session by Cyblade. Again, we're selling what's on the cover. So it's just a training session. But then we cut to Impact visiting his friend. And he's got this babe here that's like into him. She's going to try and make out with him. She doesn't get too far. And his friend's like, look, man, we got this military base here. It's weird. It's active. I love how Impact's holding the binoculars. So they check it out. And they're like, yeah, that is weird. We have, look, a nice Robbie the Robot reference there. Forbidden Planet. So we get Timmy and Chip. And we see that Timmy he's just frustrated. And previously we had notes of potentially him turning. He's compromised. He's not who he says he is, or he's not who we think he is. One of the reasons why I love this. Biography. So now they're using these fold out, you can basically tear them out, right? These are tearaway pinups. You can tear them out, but they're using it to sell the history of the character. The Great Expansion. We turn the page, the Great Expansion. Experience the cutting edge. Razor in his first special. Now we get Top Cow and we get Ballistic Studios, right? We're drifting away from Homage Studios. So they get deployed, and now we're at this castle in France. And within the castle in France, we see yet another one of these aliens. So something's up. And during this skirmish, one of them gets decapitated. That's not the highlight. Here we go. High adventure. We get zapped into France a couple hundred years ago. And pretty soon, Cyblade here, our cover girl, is going to get mistaken for Joan of Arc. We're now in time travel. We're dealing with an alien menace. We're dealing with a technology that no one's ever seen before. We're dealing with Timmy over here potentially being compromised. And it's insane, right? It's a lot. It's a lot happening in one issue. But also part of the Great Expansion, we get the advertisement for Shy Witchblade. Sorry, for She Witchblade. And as everyone knows, within the walls of this very comic book, we get our first introduction to Top Cow's Witchblade. The future of the company. The Great Expansion. So that's a little bit what I mean about the house ads. We get a Weapon Zero biography. Why is Weapon Zero important? Let's go back to that house ad. Weapon Zero is important because those little alien guys, what's on the next cover, potentially they're linked. They're linked to this upcoming series, this upcoming franchise. Weapon Zero, with the power of Joe Benitez, and Bat too, Inker. They kind of hold the power when it comes to the visual of Top Cow. Weapon Zero becomes a superior looking book. You can tell just by this ad. It's a better looking book than Cyberforce. But Cyberforce always struggled to have its footing. So we're not quite there, but hey, we're back in France. We got some, I love the inking for the fire in the sky here. So we got to figure some things out. And then along the way, one of the soldiers there recognizes Timmy. And he's like, Timmy? And he's like, that's me. That's also me. Why am I back in time? He goes, well, you kind of just, I'm so glad I found you alive. Not easy being human. We've all got to die like machines. See how lucky you are? That man dying, he's me. I'm dead. I love it, guys. Yeah, and we get Cyblade here just doing some action. Some of these guys here, right? Look at that awesome face. They're just looking at that booty. They are. But they're like, hey, we were told a divine woman would come save us. And we think you're her. And she's like, well, we got to go along with it. She does a very Princess Leia. She's Princess Leia, and these are the Ewoks. And we get back. So now, remember, everyone's been snooping around things, okay, that they're not supposed to snoop around at. They're tracing signals, tracing beacons. But Impact here, he's about to, make out with this girl. And then boom, one of those alien guys comes in. They fight. Their friend gets nuked. His best friend over here. Look, you dudes are mech meat. And he trashes them in one spectacular sideways spread. Guys, look at this. Look at the coloring. If you want to see the difference between new stain printing and direct, let's compare. Can you guys see the difference? And the industry later would go in this direction. This gets phased out, but the quality of these issues with the weight and the paper amount, these still hold up to this day. We'll just make the switch. When it comes to the newer stuff, that's why the newer books, the ink comes off on your hand. The books are more frail. You got so many more spine ticks with the new stuff. New stuff in high grade is rare, not that we care. But yeah, we get this fantastic Marc Silvestri wreckage. Impact here destroyed the mech meat. And I think he's dead. Exclamation point, not question mark. So we think he's dead. Let me get some Timmy here with some red eyes. And then we're back at Cyberdata. We're back at Killjoy. I mean, we basically learn that they're trying to get to the bottom of some of these alien things. They need it. They need the data. Potentially cyber forces inbound. All that stuff. Next issue, issue 14. We're back in France. Now France has the alien guys because of the time travel device. So they need to get the time travel device, which is great. It's actually a little chip. And we move along here, and we just get some of this back and forth where, Timmy's just disrespecting Psylocke here. And Psylocke's, like, they're harsh with one another. And she just smacks him. She's like, don't ever talk to me that again. And she was like, really just he's just trying to downplay her meaningfulness. We go back to the cabin. We see the destroyed mechs. Now, we have to say, Anthony Wynn here. Here we go. No, I'm sorry. Brian Haberlin. He's on pencils. If we were to just get back to those annuals real quick, and I'm looking for them, guys, because you guys know I keep a stack right next to. I gotta just flip through this. We got a stack over here, and for some reason I cannot. I'll find it. Give me one moment. Compare our two Cyberforce annuals. We get the beginning of David Finch. David Finch is to become the preeminent illustrator of his generation. He's the GOAT. He's active on YouTube. Please go check him out. But the next year, we get our boy right here, Adam McDaniel. And Adam McDaniel potentially has a undesirable take position desire. He's got, trouble with that jawline over here. But overall, he's not thrilling. He's not thrilling, but you would have to say this dude has got to be quick. He's just, he does things like this that just kind of bother me. See, like look at Heatwave's jaw. See how it's just kind of, like he bumps it out. He just doesn't get good angles, good positions. Like this face here, the jaw should be like, should pop it up a little bit like that. Here. Like, he's got real trouble with his faces. Put a little bit more of a diamond shape on that. Over here, we can go back and forth with how, right? And then we want that to kind of come out like that. So, right? Like, that's the ear. But you can tell he drew it without drawing the entire form. You can tell that. So we get a little bit of this transition in real time, like month to month. And we're to our boy, Anthony Wynn. And we're potentially, because of that, taking a little bit out of the story. But Cyber Forces, they're hunting down and they kind of find what they need to. Like like their connection to cyber data. And this issue 2 is also broken up in 3 chapters. It's a little confusing. Chapter 1, Chapter 2, and Chapter 3. Drawn by Frank Gomez here, which actually kills it. Frank Gomez has such an interesting take on light, doesn't he? But yeah, so back at cyber data, they're talking to the aliens. They get inside the aliens. He said his name is Timmy. And here we go, issue 15. So cyber data is expanding their reach. We're making a run. And look, guys, we're back with David Finch. Look at the shadows of David Finch. So they gotta get a mystical spear. This is the time travel device, which I thought was brilliant. And here we go. Now we get some cybernetic French soldiers. Guys, keep in mind, we're being very quick to gloss these over because, again, we're entering into a different era of Cyberforce. The beat by beat, to me, isn't as interesting in these issues. So, but I want to show you the broad strokes. But 3, 2, 1, boom. They get zapped back, and then we're back at cyber data. They're jacking into the Eyes-On unit. Not relevant. So the Eyes-On unit is connected to cyber data, but cyber data, they're like almost like reverse hacking one another. Very interesting. Battle breaks out. We have the Super Shocks versus our Bughead boys, and at the end we get, I'm sorry I'm late. So at the end of all of this, when everyone's kind of like back together, and that happens in these 2 pages, I wish that was established a little bit better visually. Stryker comes out of nowhere because he hasn't been seen for a little bit, to be continued in the opposing forces, which is right here. So again, a part of the great expansion. And look, dude, look at Stryker in the first couple pages of opposing forces. Look at the coloring for this. Opposing forces, they go all out. Even story by Steve Gerber. Billy Tan is here, guys. Billy Tan is one of the great Top Cow pickups. He's still raw. Go find Billy Tan on Instagram and see what he's up to. Look, we get Velocity miniseries written by Kurt Busiek. We like Busiek a lot on this channel. The Great Expansion, Ripclaw Special. So there is a ton that happens. We're going to highlight this when we're done with Codename Strike Force. That's why I wanted to show you a little bit of Codename Strike Force earlier. But then we get this at the end. So within a couple months, they really transition out of Codename Strike Force. They reposition Cyberforce, but then we get Witchblade. And from this point on, we get like a pretty good run from 15 all the way up to 25. I didn't read issue 24. I don't have 24. But then we get into the end of the era. We get into some of their crossovers, the Devil's Reign crossover, which Devil's Reign is really about Cyblade and Heatwave right here. And at that point, Cyberforce dwindles down around issue like 31, 32, 33. We get Devil's Reign. And then at that point, it's really the end of these characters. And then the Witchblade stuff picks up. So it's the Great Expansion. It only goes so far. But it leads into their greatest era. And, you know, we're kind of racing to get there, everyone, because I know everybody wants Witchblade and Darkness, but we have to lay this foundation. We have to understand what happens inside of these books.